Hello and welcome. And in this video, I thought I would just ramble a little bit about God and space travel. I do have some really cool clips that I want to show and some vintage NASA stuff that we're going to take a look at. But so we're just going to go through God and space travel. One of the first things I wanted to talk about with God is the voice of God. The Bible says, and God said, let there be light, and God this, and God that. And if you read the Bible, it's full of statements like this. And one thing that I've always found fascinating is that if you take, for example, the things in front of you, like your coffee table in front of you or your keyboard, if you took it apart to where it's just the corks, you'd have such a small amount left it would fit on the head of a pin. 99.99% of what we see and experience is actually empty space. And so right now we know quarks are the smallest thing, and inside of a quark we theorize string theory, which is vibrations. And so it's my belief that these vibrations is the voice of God. That's what creates what we know as our reality, is simply the voice of God. And I do have a clip I'm going to show you. But first I want to share a real quick story, probably about 25 years ago now at this point. A friend of mine shared a story. We were eating lunch together at a restaurant, and he picked up the bottle of ketchup and he said, this is red. If God suddenly said that it's blue, then either the bottle of ketchup would instantly turn to blue, or how all of the world defines red would instantly change. And I thought that was really profound, and I thought about it for a long time. And that really got me thinking about the voice of God, and how many scriptures there are where and God said this, and and Jesus said this, and Jesus said that. So let's take a look at this clip I want to show you about what I believe stars are, and let's take a look at that.
With the unaided eye, it looked like a star in the heavens.
Seth Putterman called it the star in a jar, a tiny spot of bright light contained in a flask of liquid. This star in a jar is made when a sound wave is passed through a small bubble inside a flask of liquid. And this sound wave makes the bubble do something remarkable. First it expands, then it collapses. And this collapse happens so violently that vapor molecules trapped inside the bubble slam together and heat up so much that the bubble gives off an incredible burst of heat and light, several thousand times a second, giving the appearance of a star.
So next, I just briefly want to talk about hell. And so I sure as hell can't tell you about hell if I can't say hell. So it's my personal belief that, the whole fire and brimstone, fire and brimstone is used to shape something so that it can serve a purpose. You might take a blob of metal or something and run it through fire and brimstone so that you can shape it so that it can serve a purpose. The whole point of the fire and brimstone is to teach, to bring to a purpose. And so please check out things for yourself. Don't take my word for anything. Don't take anybody's word for anything. Check things out for yourself. But it's my belief that hell is a punishment, but it's made with the purpose to correct and balance things out. And so it's my personal belief, and I'm going to emphasize that somebody's hell would not last for all of eternity or anything like this. I think that God would have a purpose for that. It might not be a pleasant thing to go through, but there's a purpose in the end. And so then that brings me to Christ. So there is a way to escape punishment, and that is through Christ, and only through Christ, because he paid the sacrifice. He was innocent and paid the price to balance out the scales, if you will. And so that was just something I wanted to talk about. So we talked about the voice of God, and also wanted to talk a little bit about reincarnation. I know I normally catch all kinds of hell for even bringing it up, pun intended. And one of the scriptures, and there's many that deal with it, but one of the scriptures I wanted to talk about was John 9, 1 through 3. And Jesus passed by. He saw a man which was blind from his birth. And his disciples asked him, saying, Master, who did sin, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Jesus answered, Neither has this man sinned, nor his parents, but that the works of God should be made manifest in him. So this verse is often used to dispute reincarnation because Jesus answered neither. However, Jesus does not correct them for assuming either his parents sinned or the man before his birth. The answer Jesus gave does not contradict the questions. This man, I can't help but wonder if he actually volunteered for this position. Jesus healed the man, and he was made to be able to see again. But for those of you who aren't familiar with that story, this taught a great lesson to many people, and now, over 2,000 years later, and we're still talking about it. So, it could be before this man was born that maybe he volunteered for it. What an honor. So, kind of think about it like that. And anyway, that's just my personal belief. Don't take my word for it. You must, every life is a personal journey. Everybody must decide for themselves. And fascinating stuff. I encourage you to read the Bible and make your own decisions. And I want to talk a little bit about the soul, the spirit, and the flesh. I think that this gets confused a lot. I think that the soul is the real us that lives for all of eternity. And the flesh is obvious. That's where we're at now, what we experience. And then the spirit and the soul, people get confused. The spirit of a person is more like people can have the spirit of joy. People can have a spirit of fear or whatever. And their spirit can change. But the soul is the real us, and the flesh is just a manifestation of who we are. And Christ was the manifestation of God himself. And so that's, the soul of Christ was God. And so that's the difference between Christ and us. And so, just something to think about that. I also want to get into about what it means to be created in God's image. But first, let's get to some space travel stuff. I got some cool clips to show. One thing you have to remember, that truth is constant and a lie is ever changing. There's a lot of problems, and I've spent years studying this. I own several websites that dealt with these different scientific things. And, if you look at the North Star, for example, I think the current understanding is that it's 323 light years away, which is ridiculous. Folks, a human eye cannot see that far. And this is what I mean about a lie is ever changing. Science will tell us that, it's not, you're not seeing the actual North Star, you're just seeing the light that comes off of it, and blah, blah, blah. You must decide for yourself. I believed that at one point in time. I struggled with it a little bit when I was a kid, but as I got older, I came around to that way of thinking. But, if we were really spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, twirling, wobbling, all these other magical things, and going around the sun at 66,000 miles an hour, and then all that going around at 500,000 miles an hour. I mean, these stars would change. You would not see the consistency. We basically, live on the face of a clock. And, the thing with the sun and the moon, we observe them as the same size. I could ramble on about that forever, but I won't. I just want to get back to space travel. Space is not a place we can go. There's waters above us. I don't know what kind of form the water takes. It almost seems like it's some type of gel or something. But let's take a look at some other videos here. So this here is some footage from Space Shuttle Flight 8 from 1983, and you can check it out for yourself, and please do. And there's a couple funny things that I want to show you here that I just think's hilarious. I love this old vintage NASA stuff. It's
Dan sat in
so
the
much
pilot
fun.
seat
Take a
during
look.
this operation, sort of monitoring the motion of the vehicle, making sure that it was steady and that there were very few vibrations of any sort.
There we go. I love this face in the background. And, of course, NASA's official stance is that that's just a reflection through the window. But yeah, okay, I get it. I mean, there's an excuse for everything. But I just love this old footage. I mean, you can decide for yourself. But then there's another funny thing I'm going to show you here in just a minute. But I'm going to rewind it and let that play through. This is just too funny. And then you can
Here's a
watch
picture
along.
of the motion of the vehicle, making sure that it was steady and that there were very few vibrations of any sort. Here's a picture of the INSAT actually being deployed from the spacecraft. You can see that the deploy went very smoothly. At the moment of deploy, there was a large thump, and as I said, the spacecraft was deployed very
That's
smoothly,
hilarious.
and
Just cracks
there was
me
no
up.
vibrations or no precession of the satellite as it left the payload bay. Matter of fact, Dale pointed out that about a minute 20 seconds after deployment, you could see some of the jets on the spacecraft actually firing as part of the nutation control associated with the spacecraft.
Okay. I think somebody
See
forgot to
some of
turn
the
the
jets
earth
on the
on here.
spacecraft actually firing
Check it out.
as part of the nutation control associated with the spacecraft. Another aspect
There
of
it
our
goes.
mission was checking out as
That
part of
cracks me up.
the
Okay. One
nutation
more time and then I'll
control
be done with it.
associated
But so there it
with the
is. Okay.
spacecraft.
Okay. Oh, there they've got it turned on.
Another
Okay.
aspect
Perfect. It's just too
of
funny.
our mission was checking out the TDRS network. And so the shuttle flew various different attitudes during the mission, checking out the KU band. And this is the picture of the KU band antenna that was used to check out the
Okay, so there it is. Wow, there's the curve of the Earth, and back in 1983, I don't remember there being such a cloudy day, but I guess there was all over the Earth, same patterns and everything. That's great. It's great.
Pro. 99, proceeded, 3, 2, 1, ignition. Right away, Houston. Vector grid. X-Side. Pitch over. Roger, you have good thrust.
Okay, so let me talk about this for a minute. At one time, I believed this was real. Okay, I struggled with it when I was a child. I asked the teacher in my classroom many annoying questions, but I eventually came around to that way of thinking. But later, in I think it was the year 1992, I worked with a guy who believed it was fake, and I set out to prove him wrong. I was very annoyed with this man, and after doing so much research, I finally went back to him and said, I think you might be right. Please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I mean, I understand. I all the space movies, and I still watch them. I've seen almost every Star Trek show ever made. Um, my family and I went to the drive-in in 1977 to watch Star Wars for the first time, and I still watch them today. And but the difference is, I know it's all make-believe, and in my opinion, a lot of this NASA stuff is it's funny, it's entertaining. To me, it's no more than Hollywood make-believe. And so, I don't want to offend anybody. I really don't. And I once believed this was real. Okay, I admit that. And so I'm not trying to make fun of anybody or anything here. I'm just trying to point out some things, and do your own research. Do not take my word for anything. Life's a personal journey. Do your own research. Just trying to bring some stuff to light to help people out. That's all. Thanks.
Well, now, one thing, you have a theory about the moon, and we expect to be able to get observable facts about the moon fairly soon. What is your theory?
Well, it is by now rather more than a theory. 10 or 11 years ago, I stated to various scientists that the moon is not a piece of rock, but it is a plasma phenomena, a cosmic plasma, and that this fact will eventually be confirmed. I made certain predictions which were already confirmed in 1958, and the situation now is coming close to a complete confirmation.
What will be the result if you're proved to be correct in your theories?
The result will be profound and decisive, because it will give proof that a complete reinvestigation of the laws of nature is necessary. Because if the moon is a plasma, no man will ever land on it. The soft landing attempts will all fail. That means that the mass of the moon is far less than is currently assumed. It's in a different state of energy, and it has far less mass. That means there is no more explanation for the tides. If the moon, for example, had only 1,000th part of its current mass, then the tides would only be 2 inches high under conventional theories instead of sometimes 14 feet. And that means that if it is proved that the moon is a plasma, then all gravitational theories are out, and a new concept of the cosmos and of its laws has to be evolved.
Aren't you being a bit adventurous, though, because you know that we're going to be able to test out your theories on the moon fairly soon?
Well, not anymore. 11 years ago, of course, it was rather taking a risk. I was considered a lunatic, of course. But by now, the evidence, accumulated evidence, is already so much in my favor that I'm not taking any risks anymore. On the contrary, there is scientific views expressed all over the world now that the moon seems to be of a quite different nature of what was assumed.
But the Americans and Russians are thinking of landing men on it.
Well, that will never happen. Not on the...
Here I've just Googled some images of craters on Earth. I believe these are pockmarks. They probably formed when the Earth was being created, probably gas bubbles from beneath the surface and rose to the top and popped. That's all they are. I don't believe that the asteroids hit Earth. And then we got the same thing happening on the surface of the moon while it was being formed. These are bubbles that have popped and form these puck marks, and that's what they are. It's not some asteroid slammed into the moon or the Earth exactly at 90 degrees. And especially, I know that's the belief for what killed the dinosaurs, as an asteroid that hit the Earth and killed the dinosaurs. And now I would highly recommend watching, if you can find it, Eric Dubé's video on dinosaurs never existed. I will tell you, YouTube deletes it as fast as people post it, but it's an eye-opening video, and it ties in directly with what I'm talking about here with these pock marks here. So here's some pictures of Earth, and this stuff just cracks me up. I love how here's the United States, and then look at it here. Look at the 2012 to 2002, 2007. I mean, it's just funny how they can't keep it straight. It just cracks me up. It's just funny. I just wanted to point that out. So lastly, I wanted to talk about what it means to be created in the image of God. And this is kind of a difficult thing to put into words, but I think about, we're all created from a broken off piece of God. So inside of each of us is a tiny broken off piece of God that has a strong desire to return where we come from, return back to God. However, we have sinned, and we are not worthy to return back to where we came from, but it has to happen through Christ. And so I wanted to throw that out there. So if you have, let's just say you have a dream where you go to a baseball game and you drive in your car and there's traffic and there's people next to you in traffic and somebody's listening to the radio, and then you hear the radio and you finally make it to the ball game and you're sitting in the bleachers and you wonder if your team's going to win or not, and maybe one of your favorite players hits a home run and you're surprised. And then when you wake up and you say, oh, that was a great dream. Well, think about this. You actually, there was a broken off piece of you that played the part of everything you experienced, even though you were surprised. You didn't know when you were in traffic you were going to pull up next to somebody with the radio on. You actually, a broken off little piece of you played the part of every one of those people. At the ball field, the player hit the home run. Each one of those characters in your dream had their own personality, but you actually played the part of every one of those people in your dream. And sometimes you might even have a nightmare and it surprises you and scares you. And maybe you were, being attacked by a monster or something, but you played the part of the monster and scared yourself in a sense. So, it's hard to put into words, but because I want to be careful, it's like a loaf of bread that gets cut into pieces, and so we're the pieces. And this is where I want to be careful, because we are not God. And I cringe to tell people this information sometimes, and again, this is my own personal opinion, because I don't want Satan to come in and try to build up man. That's not mankind. That's not no good. So we do have value, and we are created with love, and we have an incredible amount of value. And the world would try to tell us that we're nothing. What did Bill Nye say? We're a speck on a speck. I feel so worthless, or something like that. I don't know. But that's what the world will try to lie and tell us. But we do have great value. We're created with love. And, John 3:16, God for so loved the world that he gave his only son. And whoever shall believe in him shall not perish but have eternal life. But, but there is a broken off piece of God inside of you. And that gives you a lot of value. And, that really means something. And, God is eternal, and we too are eternal beings also. So, we were created, our names were spoke out into existence, and I believe that happened before time. So I believe that happened in eternity. And so we just long to return where we came from. So, I don't know, a lot of stuff to think about there. That is just my personal opinion. Decide for yourself. I encourage you to read the Bible and make your own decisions. And thanks for checking out this video.